I'd like to tell you a story. It's always good to get out and about. I parked outside the old school and buttoned myself into my warmest coat to face the cold blast of the northeasterly wind. I paused at the bridge to watch the patterns of ice on the river, listening to the crackle and snap as it moved with the current. It really felt an inhospitable world. Head down, I plodded up the brae and with a sense of relief turned out of the wind to head down the hill towards the shore. A snipe took off from the frozen ditch, and I marvelled at a crofter's optimism as I passed the house. Horizontal washing strained away from the pegs in whip-cracking abandon. There isn't even the faintest whisper of warmth in air that feels funnelled directly from the frozen north. As I approached the beach, what I thought were wader calls transpired to be musical arrangement of rusted barbed wire and an old corrugated tin sheet clinking and squeaking in sympathy with the overhead wires. I tucked down below the bridge parapet, glad to find a moment of shelter. Immediately obvious were the 20 oyster catchers, all resting, heads firmly tucked under wings, motionless on the shingle. A hoodie looked really large in comparison, something I haven't noticed before. Further out, riding the smaller waves at the river mouth, were 40 widgeon. They were dabbling and puttering about, as is the way with ducks. A white-bellied diver caught my eye for a moment and was gone the next. I dug my heels into the frost-coated sand, leant back and scanned again. On the larger rocks further out, 4 cormorants are stood doing nothing, going nowhere. I moved on. In the curve of the bay, a small, isolated patch of sand was crammed with ringed plover, all dotting about, dashing and doing, stopping for no apparent reason before rushing off again. The tide thundered in long, sweeping Atlantic breakers, filling the bay with noise and wind-blown spray. I walked lockside of the storm beach, my nose filled with the scent of ozone and that most glorious of odours, seaweed. The edge of the loch was frozen in glassy sheets, every shade of pewter and blue imaginable. I was buffeted along by the wind at a lively pace. The girls far out on the ice stood resolutely facing straight into it. A large skein of greylags flew in to alight noisily on a patch of open water. I left the shore to walk up between the stone enclosures of former dwellings and field systems, and 4 curlew roused themselves, caught the breeze and bubbled away downwind. A bird of prey broke the horizon, probably a buzzard. I regained the village, stood to look back across the loch to the sea, before hurrying down the hill, back to the shelter of the car.